Today we're comparing the Flipper 1, Highboy, and Cardputer Zero. But this is not about which device has the biggest spec sheet. This is about which device actually fits your daily tasks, your budget, and the way you carry gear. Let's start with the Flipper 1. The Flipper 1 is the most powerful device here because it is basically a pocket Linux computer. The main specs that matter are 8-core ARM processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabyte storage, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, dual gigabit Ethernet, USB, HDMI, micro SD, and M.2 expansion. That makes it more like a portable network lab than a classic Flipper-style gadget. This is the device that makes sense if you want to run Linux tools, do network testing, use Ethernet, SSH into systems, build a portable router, mess with VPNs, or carry a small Linux lab with you. But that also means it may be overkill if you mostly care about quick RF, NFC, RFID, or IR testing. Price-wise, the Flipper 1 is not available yet. The target price has been talked about around $350 for the base model, but that is not final. And with memory and storage prices moving up across the tech industry, it is possible the final price could be higher than expected. Now let's talk about the Highboy. The Highboy is different from the Flipper 1 because it is not trying to be a full pocket Linux computer. It is more of a hardware security and wireless testing device. The big thing here is the dual chip setup. Highboy uses the ESP32P4 and the ESP32C5. That matters because the ESP32P4 is a big step up for ESP32 style devices. It gives the Highboy more processing power for the screen, user interface, apps, and heavier device features. Then the ESP32C5 adds the newer wireless side, including Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth Low Energy 5.3. So instead of one chip trying to do everything, the Highboy splits the workload. One side helps run the device experience, the other side helps handle modern wireless features. Where the Flipper 1 is more of a pocket Linux lab, the Highboy is more of a wireless field tool. This is the device that makes sense if you want built-in tools for sub-gigahertz, LoRa, NFC, RFID, infrared, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and hardware security testing. It is not as powerful as the Flipper 1 as a computer, but it has more of the wireless gadget features built in from the start. The listed retail price is $249. Now let's talk about the Cardputer Zero. The Cardputer Zero is the smallest and most affordable Linux-style option here. The main specs that matter are Raspberry Pi Compute Module 0, 512 megabytes RAM, micro SD storage, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, a small screen, and a built-in keyboard. That makes it more like a tiny Linux terminal than a full hacking gadget. This is useful for SSH, Python scripts, command line tools, maker projects, notes, and lightweight Linux tasks. It is not really competing with the Highboy for RF tools, and it is not competing with the Flipper 1 for raw power. It is more about portability, budget, and having a tiny Linux machine you can actually carry. Cardputer Zero pricing was listed around $59 to $149 depending on the model and early bird pricing. So here's the simple breakdown. If you need a pocket Linux lab, networking tools, Ethernet, M.2 expansion, routing, VPNs, and heavier computing, look at the Flipper 1. If you need built-in wireless hardware tools like sub-gigahertz, LoRa, NFC, RFID, IR, Wi-Fi, BLE, and GPIO, look at the Highboy. If you need a tiny Linux terminal for SSH, scripting, coding, and maker projects, look at the Cardputer Zero. But here is another important point. If your main goal is just to have Linux hacking tools, you may not need to buy any of these devices. You can install Kali Linux or Parrot Security for free on an old laptop, old desktop, mini PC, or bootable flash drive. That might be the smarter starting point. You get a bigger screen, full keyboard, more storage, more ports, and a better learning setup. Then once you know what tools you actually use, you can decide if a pocket device makes sense. Quick disclaimer before we end the video. Anytime we talk about upcoming devices, reservations, crowdfunding, or Kickstarter style campaigns, there is always risk. Specs can change, prices can change, shipping dates can move, and the final product may not be exactly what people expected at the start. Also, I am not sponsored by any of these companies. I think each device mentioned here is special in its own way. The Flipper 1 is interesting because it is pushing toward a powerful pocket Linux lab. The Highboy is interesting because it is focused on built-in wireless and hardware security features. The Cardputer Zero is interesting because it gives you a tiny, affordable Linux-style terminal with a keyboard and screen. If we keep pushing for more powerful, mini Linux-based computers in our pocket At what point does it make more sense to just use a small laptop, mini PC, or device you already own? I'll leave links in the description so you can do your own research, compare the details, and decide what actually makes sense for your setup. Let me know in the comment section which device interests you the most, and as always, remember that safety is an illusion.